Good morning, UUSS. Join us in singing Woyaya to bring our service to a start. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, but the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know it is. Woyaya, 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 woyaya. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know it is, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Woyaya, 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 woyaya.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? How about now? Hold on. How's now? Oh, there we go. Good morning. Welcome to our Sunday service. Whether you are here with us in person or if you are online with us via Zoom, we are glad you are here. I'm Courtney O'Neill. I am serving as our worship associate for today, along with the Reverend Lucy Bunch. Reverend Roger Jones is out of the office this week. And today we have Dr. Chris Goff as our guest speaker, and he will be giving a sermon entitled Quantifying Infinity. Stay tuned. If you'd like to follow the order of service, a printed copy is on the back table by the doors, or you can click on the link in our Zoom chat. The blue sheet, who has a blue sheet? There they are, their blue sheet, is our weekly calendar of activities, and that is also on the back table, and it is also online, so click the link in the chat. We invite you to explore the ways we live out our mission, which says we come together to deepen our lives and be a force for healing in the world. Our weekly message comes through email every Friday, and you can find it on our website as well and subscribe to it there. It has news and announcements of events, invitations to volunteer opportunities, and a minister's message. If you're new today to UUSS, we extend a special welcome. Please fill out a newcomer's card either by the link on our website or at the welcome table after the service so that we can connect with you. We're glad you're here today. After the service on Zoom, we have time for conversation and meet and greets through the Zoom service. Here on campus, you can connect or check out the connections table in the welcome hall and enjoy refreshments and conversation on the patio. In fact, in honor of our guest preacher today and in honor of Pie Day on March 14th, we are serving pie after the service, including vegan and sugar-free. So everyone should stay and eat pie. Today is also our annual plant exchange, and you're welcome to take one even if you didn't bring a plant, because sharing is caring. The men's group meets today after the service in rooms 7 and 8. All male identified folks are welcome. Today is also the first day of our drive for the Wellspring Women's Center, so please bring donations of toiletries, ground coffee, herbal tea, and large-sized diapers to the Welcome Hall on Sunday, today, March 16th, the 23rd, and the 30th. We will have our family dinner potluck Friday, on Friday, March 21st. That will be at 5:30 p.m. And all are invited to come and share a meal with our warm and friendly folks. It's an all-ages community. Bring a dish to share or just bring yourself. You will meet in the main welcome hall, and there is no sign-up required. Contact Crystal Fountain with more details. Our Exploring UU classes are moving to after the service on the fourth Sunday of the month. This is a class designed for newcomers, but all are welcome. And this month, Reverend Roger is leading a session on faith. Starting next Sunday at 9:30, Reverend Lucy will be leading a monthly session of embodied practices for stressful times. Come join with some gentle movement to help stabilize your nervous system. All bodies are welcome. And now, please check your cell phone, pager, carrier pigeon, watch, and make sure that it is on silent mode. And please assist anyone who may have difficulty during the service so that we can all be more mindful and present. And now we will have our gift of music.
Good morning. Great to be with you this morning. Our chalice lighter this morning is Rebecca. Come on up. There she is. Our Soul Matters theme for March is trust. So I've chosen this chalice lighting reading from Reverend Scott Taylor. We gather today to receive the blessings of trust. May the relationships in this room remind us we do not have to depend only on ourselves. May the quiet we share help us hear and renew our faith in that still small voice inside. May the music sung inspire us to hold tight to the restorative rhythms of the world. May the words offered remind us that we too have a voice, one that must be trusted and shared. With our hearts open, let us begin.
children and adults alike, this is the time to make your way out to the welcome hall as we guide you in singing your song. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Through these challenging times, we find strength in community. We pray for compassion, patience, and commitment as we witness the upending of our norms and the reckless actions of our government. We pray we find a united path to resistance. We send our prayers for courage and persistence to all those who are directly affected by the actions of the president and his enablers, including members of our own community. And for these and all other assaults on our values and of common humanity, we will light our candle of compassion and resistance. In these times of disruption and anxiety, when cruelty is on display in our country, this flame is a reminder to bear witness to human decency, dignity, and freedom. By this light, let us remember that fear is outworked by hope and that hatred is no match for the power of love. In the days to come, may this flame light our way forward with courage and with hope. Blessed be. One of the ways that we strengthen our community is by sharing our joys and sorrows with each other, weaving together the fabric of our lives. Any of you can have a joy or sorrow shared on Sunday morning. You can find a link in the weekly message, or you can call the office and pass on your joy that you'd like to have shared. And we have some thrilling news today that John McMillan and Janet Lopes will become grandparents in late September. Woo-hoo! So those of you who are already grandparents may want to give them some tips, particularly about how to back off when required. I also share the news that our longtime member Wilma Hash died on March 8th from complications from a stroke. Wilma was born in Dunsmuir, California on November 25th, 1936. Her partner and daughters are planning for a memorial celebration in June, and we'll let you know when that happens. Dawn Hebner reports that she had a successful surgery, is coping with a few post-operative challenges, and she appreciates all the well wishes that she's received from the congregation. Michelle is asking us for prayers for Gary and for Lindy, who are facing very difficult prognosis and treatments. And Connor and Emily are asking for our prayers for Ember Peterson, the daughter of a close friend who has a serious heart condition and who will be undergoing surgery on Thursday the 20th. They ask for our hopes and best wishes during the surgery and after. Let us take a deep breath and let it out with a sigh. And one more. And let's settle in now for a time of prayer. Our prayer this morning is from the Reverend A.J. Van Tyne. Great mystery which grounds and surrounds us. Small spark of life and possibility that lives within us even when all else is crumbling to dust. Be with us in our confusion, fear, and despair. Lead us to navigate them as slowly as possible, resisting the impulse to soothe, to blame, to seek things that feel better than the hurt and the heaviness, but which ultimately leave us isolated or complacent or too suspicious. Let us not free from our grief, but allow our hearts to be broken open again and again, grieving for all that has already been lost and all that is threatened now. Spirit of life and love and regeneration, help us to feel the wisdom in our bodies. Even with so much going so wrong, our hearts beat with gratitude for blessings, for beauty and joy stubbornly breaking through, for the compassionate companionship of community, which welcomes all that we bring with us in these times and doesn't ask us to be anything other than what we are. For the trees and the wind and the stars, their cosmic witness soothing our animal souls, reminding us of the deep impermanence and the deep interconnectedness of all things. Spirit of transformation, may our hearts break open and stretch out to join with the hearts of others who yearn for a freer world. Each heart a building block of a better society. Each life lived with hope and resistance, and a prayer for a nobler world. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Now let us take a moment of silence for the prayers on our own hearts. Amen.
Please join in singing "We Are Not Our Own." We are not our own, earth forms us, human leaves on nature's growing vine, fruit of many generations, seeds of life divine. We are not our own, earth names us, past and present, peoples near and far, family and friends and strangers, show us who we are. Therefore let us make thanksgiving, and with justice willing and aware, give to earth and all things living liturgies of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone
Well, I am so delighted today to have Chris Goff with us this morning. Chris and I have known each other for more than 20 years as members of the Sacramento Master Singers. And we would often drive up to our retreats in the Sierras, and he would tell me about interesting tidbits about math. And I just got so inspired that I wanted him to come and be with us this morning. So he got his PhD at the University of California at Santa Cruz in 1999. His dissertation was titled Isomorphic Fusion Algebras of Twisted Quantum Doubles of Finite Groups. I was going to do my dissertation on that topic. It's amazing. So when I proposed preaching, when I opposed him coming and preaching with us, he wanted to help you understand the isomorphic fusion algebras of twisted quantum doubles of finite groups, but I suggested maybe something lighter like infinity. Dr. Goff has been on the faculty of the University of Pacific since 2002, where he teaches courses in abstract algebra and the history of mathematics. He currently co-directs the Euler Archive, an online repository of the original publications of the Swiss polymath Leonhard Euler. He also co-edits the online journal Euleriana. Those mathematicians are so funny, aren't they? Euleriana, devoted to scholarship about Euler and his contemporaries. But I thought I would set the stage with a poem about math. This is written by Grant Sanderson, who's a very popular YouTube presenter teaching math with visual aids, and Chris tells me he got some sort of accommodation from mathematicians. Yeah, so really appreciated in his field. And he wrote this poem called Defining Math. So I thought it would be helpful to prepare us, right, to listen to the sermon by defining math for you. So this is from Grant Sanderson. In math, we strive and stickle with a pride to wash away all ambiguity. And yet, definers cannot all decide what math itself means. What an irony. Perhaps a science solving mysteries, but happy to pursue what seems absurd. Perhaps a brother of philosophies, but with a rigid rigor in each word. Computer science might be suitable, but most of math is not computable. Perhaps it is a language of its own, which to English has the most false friends. Perhaps religion, where the truth alone is worshipped, giving means as well as ends. Perhaps a sister of created arts, but one arousing reason, not a sense. Indeed, it shares a number of its parts with almost every study in some sense. But it's an orphan, floating in abstract, and it alone encloses what's exact.
As a kid, I struggled with math. I was bright, but it didn't come as naturally to me as reading or history. It didn't help that when faced with an equation, I would panic. I would put up a mental block and do pretty much anything I could to convince myself that I couldn't solve it. Now, of course, as an adult, I routinely use math in the everyday way that we all use it to balance the household budget, to convert ounces to quarts when cooking, to use real-life pi to help my kids understand fractions. But sometimes I think about higher mathematics, and I admit that I'm intrigued. Now, I should clarify, I'm not intrigued by the idea of solving equations that take up an entire chalkboard like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting. I'm intrigued by the concept of math as a language, spoken by those who understand it the way that I might try to learn Spanish. Another movie, Contact, with Jodie Foster, uses the premise of math being the universal language between aliens and humans. Well, that makes me think, what's it like for someone in our real world to speak fluent math? How does this change their understanding of our world and the universe? As humans, we're only able to comprehend 3 dimensions. Mathematicians and theoretical physicists are using math to explore dimensions that our brains can't fully comprehend beyond those 3. To use math as a portal into other dimensions, that sounds like science fiction to me. And while I can't begin to understand it on anything but the most basic level, I'm in awe of its capabilities, and I wonder how far we can come to understanding it. I also think of math as representing the infinite in a unique way, because my understanding of everything is finite. Things have a beginning, a middle, and an end, whether they're books, cooking times, seasons, or lifespans. But the concept of pi, which starts with 3.14 and then it just spins on continuing forever, that's something that I don't stop enough to marvel at. I learned about pi in middle school, but it's one thing to learn it to pass a geometry test, and it's another to sit now as an adult and contemplate pi as a transcendental number that defies my understanding by spooling on and on forever. Getting older now, I'm more curious about math. What could it teach us about the infinite? What could it tell us about different dimensions? What about the possibility of a multiverse? Can math one day help us as humans to better understand the endlessness of space? Can it transform the way we understand or even experience the passing of time? My curiosity, as you can see, it has nothing to do with what I learned in school and everything to do with the spirituality of the infinite, of the universe, of life itself. This curiosity about math is something I was never taught in school. And I wonder now if, as a kid, my interest would have been more piqued if I had realized back then just how complex and potentially unknowable math is. Would my life be any different today? It's hard to say, but the possibilities seem, well, infinite. Me again. This congregation's mission statement says, "We come together to deepen our lives and to be a force for healing in the world." One of the ways we do this is by giving away half of every Sunday's offering to a local organization. Our community partner for the month of March is the Wellspring Women's Center. Wellspring's mission is to provide an environment where low-income women and their children can reduce isolation, recognize their inherent worth, and build self-esteem. Housed in the Oak Park Firehouse, Wellspring's Drop-In Center is a trusted community gathering place, offering nutritious meals to nearly 200 people on a daily basis. Volunteers and staff provide free case management, counseling, art therapy, enrichment workshops, and safety net services. Guests are diverse in age, personal background, and ethnicity. Minimal government funding helps Wellspring avoid restrictions on who it serves and enables a quick response. Wellspring relies on generous donations from the community to provide hospitality, respect, and crucial support services. We're grateful for your generous support of UUSS and our community partner, and this morning's offering will now be given and received. As the greeters bring forward the baskets, please join me in saying our unison words. May generosity bless our world, and may gratitude nourish our spirit.
Hi. Before we start, I'm going to tell you a little story to think about. So suppose that you manage a hotel that has a lot of rooms, an infinite number of rooms, in fact, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. You're thrilled because every room is occupied. You're just about to turn on the no vacancy sign when someone walks in desperate for a room. You don't feel comfortable kicking out one of your guests, but you could ask guests to change rooms once. That's not too much of an imposition. Can you accommodate this single traveler? Before we answer that, I'll say a little more about myself. As you know, my name is Chris Goff. I'm not related to the Detroit Lions quarterback. And I started teaching mathematics at Pacific back in 2002. I joined the Sacramento Master Singers in 2005, and so I guess I've known Reverend Lucy for over 20 years now. We actually have a concert today, which is why I'm dressed in all black. When she asked me to consider preaching here, and I put preaching in quotes, I said yes, but then I had to think about the topic and my audience. Now, if my interactions over the years with people who find out my profession are any indication, I'm guessing that many of you do not have the fondest memories of your math teachers. While I may show you a few slides today, don't worry, I won't quiz you later. For me, mathematics was a calling, as was teaching. I love helping people understand the big ideas of math and how you can begin with simple, reasonable notions and proceed logically to powerful conclusions. So I decided the concept of infinity would be an appropriate topic for today's sermon. But what is infinity? Etymologically, it's the opposite of finiteness. So if something is not finite, it's infinite. Let's take an example, the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on without end. I will mention the counting numbers often today. I should point out that some mathematicians don't like infinity. For instance, the German mathematician Leopold Kronecker, pictured here, was known for his disdain of infinity. He liked finite processes and finite things. However, even he allowed the existence of an infinite set of numbers when he famously said, and I quote, "God created the integers, all else is the work of man," end quote. It sounds even better in German. Moving on, you may recall that some of these counting numbers are themselves prime, meaning that they are only divisible by 1 and themselves. 2, 3, and 5 are the first 3 prime numbers. Other numbers are divisible by primes if they're not prime themselves. If you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory, you know that 73 is a prime number. In episode 73 of the TV show, Sheldon Cooper explains why he likes 73. It's prime, 7 times 3 is 21, and 73 is the 21st prime number. Moreover, if you switch its digits, you get 37, which is also prime, and is in fact the 12th prime number, 12 being what you get if you switch the digits of 21. Interestingly, in 2015, a group of mathematicians defined a, quote, Sheldon prime to satisfy criteria like these. And then 4 years later, 2 other mathematicians proved that 73 is the only Sheldon prime. So just like normal people, mathematicians like to watch TV too. But I digress. Back to our story. How many prime numbers are there? Are there infinitely many? Thankfully, the answer first appeared over 2,000 years ago in Euclid's Elements. This work is not only the world's most famous geometry textbook, it's also the world's second most published book overall, second only to the Bible. As a mathematician, I can't resist sharing Euclid's proof with you. Let's suppose that 2, 3, and 5 were the only prime numbers. If we multiplied them all together, we would get 30, 2 times 3 times 5. Said another way, 2, 3, and 5 each divide into 30 evenly with no remainder. But what about 31? Well, by adding 1 to the number 30, we now have a number that neither 2 nor 3 nor 5 will divide into, because on each of these division attempts, there's now a remainder of 1. That's the basic idea. Euclid said that if the list of prime numbers were finite, then we could multiply all of them together and add 1. The result would be a number that is not divisible by any of the primes on the list, and so it must be prime itself. But it wasn't on the list, so this contradicts how the list was formed. Therefore, the list could not have been finite to start with. There were indeed infinitely many primes. So we just proved there are infinitely many primes. Yeah. Yay, I like this example because it only uses multiplication, division, remainders, and logic to deduce that the set of prime numbers must be infinite. So let's go back to the infinite hotel. It turns out we can find the poor traveler a room for the night. All we have to do is ask each guest to move out of their room and go to the next room. So the guest in room 1 goes to room 2, which will be empty because the guest in room 2 goes to room 3. The guest in room 3 goes to room 4, and so on and so on. Now room number 1 is available, so you can give the traveler room number 1. Everyone has a room also because remember, the counting numbers never end. So everyone who left one room can just go to the next one. Let's make it a little trickier. What if an infinite number of travelers, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, all showed up to find a room in your hotel? Can you still make room for all of them? While you think about it, I'll introduce another mathematical notion. It's called a one-to-one correspondence. This is a fancy way of saying that if we're matching items from 2 different groups in such a way that every item in one group is paired with one and only one item in the other group. If you've ever been on a full flight, you're familiar with the one-on-one correspondence between passengers and their seats. But what if the relationship is not a one-to-one correspondence? If there are not enough passengers, then there are empty seats on the plane. And if there are too many passengers, then some of them are going to have to stay behind. So on this next slide, I have some images, which I call blob pictures. On one side, the blobs represent different one-to-one correspondences. On the other side are some relationships that are not one-to-one correspondences. So which side is which? I know I said there wouldn't be a quiz, but it's okay because I'm not going to grade this. Any ideas? Okay, going over there. Left is one-to-one. That is correct. The left of the one-to-one correspondences. Yay, you got it. Yes. So the mathematician credited for defining and investigating one-to-one correspondences is Georg Cantor. Picture young Cantor is on the left. The picture on the right was taken later in life. Cantor was born in St. Petersburg, but when he was 11, the family moved to Germany to escape the extreme Russian winters. Cantor's career was marked by highs and lows. Highs when his colleagues understood his work, and lows when his bouts of depression would flare up and he couldn't do mathematics. It certainly didn't help that Kronecker, our earlier mathematician, Cantor's former teacher, actually challenged his work on infinity. Nevertheless, Cantor had important insights. First, he defined two sets as having the same size if there was a one-to-one correspondence between them. Given these blob pictures and the assigning passengers to seats on the plane, it's evident that this notion works for finite sets. So it's reasonable to extend it to infinite sets as well. In fact, Cantor coined the term countable or countably infinite if that set had a one-to-one correspondence with the counting numbers. Our friends, the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Another way to think of this is that you can label the elements of a countable set by the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and you will hit every element of the set once and only once. Before we go much further, let's go back to the infinite hotel. It turns out that even though each of the rooms is occupied, you can still make room for an infinite number of travelers, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Here's one way to do it. First, have every current guest take their room number and double it, and then go to that room. So the guest in room 1 now goes to room 2. The guest in room 2 goes to room 4. The guest in room 3 will go to room 6, and so on. After all of this is done, the even-numbered rooms are full, but all the odd-numbered rooms are empty. So you can assign traveler 1 to room number 1, traveler 2 to room number 3, traveler 3 to room number 5, and so on. Everyone gets a room. Here's a little blob picture depicting this. By the way, this hotel is sometimes called the Hilbert Hotel, named for a German mathematician, David Hilbert, who would use this idea, this concept, to talk about some of Cantor's ideas. So if you want to look it up on YouTube later, there's some great videos about the Hilbert Hotel. So you can see the guests go to the even-numbered rooms, and the travelers go into the odd-numbered rooms. But wait, it looks like there's a one-to-one correspondence now between the counting numbers of the current guests and the even counting numbers of the rooms that they went into. So in other words, so when you double each guest room number and send them to that room, that's a one-to-one correspondence between the guests and the even-numbered rooms. So by Cantor's notion then, the set of all the even counting numbers is the same size as the set of all the counting numbers. But the even counting numbers only comprise half of the counting numbers. So how can this be? Well, this is one of the unexpected results of Cantor's use of one-to-one correspondences. An infinite set can be the same size as one of its smaller subsets. If you were mathematics majors, you might go on to learn that the set of all integers, by which I mean not only the counting numbers, but the negative counting numbers and 0, that together makes the set of integers, that's also a countable set. Also the set of all rational numbers, so fractions, ratios of integers, like 2/3, -3/4, 23/27. All of those can be shown to, the set of all those rational numbers is also a countably infinite set. So does this mean that all infinite sets are countable? Well, let's consider next the set of real numbers between 0 and 1. You can think of this as a continuous interval on the number line from your school days. So I'll put a picture of it there. There's the number line of all the real numbers, and I put 0 and 1 on there. So this interval includes numbers like 1/2 and 2/3, as well as some irrational numbers like pi divided by 4 falls in that interval. The square root of 1/2 falls in that interval, and the cosine of 22 degrees falls into that interval, and many other numbers that aren't nice. So Cantor was able to prove that this interval of real numbers from 0 to 1 could not possibly be put into a one-to-one correspondence with the counting numbers. In other words, this real interval is not countable. We also use the word uncountable. So even if your hotel were totally empty, you would not be able to find a room for each of these numbers on the number line from 0 to 1. This led Cantor to a startling conclusion. Some infinite sets are bigger than others. Not all, whoa, yeah. Not all infinities are created equal. In fact, Cantor showed that there are an infinite number of different sizes of infinite sets. Yeah. His foundational work in set theory rattled the core beliefs of many mathematicians in his day. It took logicians years to unravel the consequences of his ideas with results that are often surprising and deep. Sadly, the proof that the real interval is uncountable lies beyond the scope of today's sermon. Yay. You are, of course, invited to investigate further on your own, or to talk with your friendly neighborhood mathematician. So what does all this mean? Who cares if there are different sizes of infinite sets? Well, clearly, Cantor cared. There are mathematicians and logicians who have spent their careers studying his ideas. As for me, I was introduced to this way of thinking about infinity in college, and it fascinated me. I chose to study mathematics in part to pursue ideas like these, and in part because I was looking for some kind of universal truth, perhaps in response to the moral relativism I had learned about in my philosophy class. Nowadays, though, I have a more practical view. If we all agree to certain believable notions, like two sets being the same size if there's a one-to-one correspondence between them, and certain rules for proceeding, then we have to agree with the conclusions that result, no matter how strange or counterintuitive they may seem. As I get older, I'm also drawn to the history of mathematics, which as a discipline can be as broad as learning about ancient civilizations and 2,000-year-old books like Euclid's Elements, or as personal as studying a mathematician who suffered from depression and whose heretical ideas were not fully appreciated in his day. I actually find comfort in the fact that Cantor's extremely plausible idea that two sets are the same size if there's a one-to-one correspondence between them, from that idea comes an interesting, complicated notion of infinity. I'm pleased that mathematics has given us a more nuanced view of the infinite than just not finite. So too, I hope I have given you a more nuanced view of mathematics as a field of ideas and play, a discipline created by humans to solve human problems and fulfill human needs. And isn't that ultimately why we're all here? Thanks.
Please join in singing, "Come and Go With Me to That Land," an infinite number of lands. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Freedom! There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Please join me in speaking together these words as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but we carry the light, love, and commitment of this gathering into the days to come.
Let's all reach out to those corresponding sets, reach out to our friends at home on Zoom. I wish you infinite peace, infinite love, and infinite possibilities. Blessed be.